My name is Jill Witecki, W-I-T-E-C-K-I. I'm the Director of Marketing for the Historic Tampa Theater, and I've been part of the team here for 5 years. Tampa Theater opened on October 15th, 1926 as a silent movie palace. Now you have to remember, back in 1926, movie palaces were a relatively new feat of architecture because movies, motion pictures, were a relatively new art form. But at the time when the architects were building these new movie palaces, they were building them to look like the other type of theater that everybody was familiar with, which was an opera house. So along comes John Eberson. He was a Chicago-based architect, and he had built some of those opera house-looking theaters, but he was also in competition with a lot of other architects, and so he had an idea and proposed to his next client that he could build them an equally beautiful movie palace for half the cost. And of course, they took him up on it. And what he did to accomplish that was, first of all, he stripped out the decorative ceiling and just painted it blue, made it look like a night sky. Took out the crystal chandeliers, put in some light bulbs to look like stars. And then on the walls and every other surface in the theater, he covered it with molded plaster. So plaster, of course, was a relatively inexpensive material to build with. It could be molded off-site at his workshops up north and then shipped down to whatever project he was working on around the country, and then painted in place by local artisans. So the result was what he called an atmospheric theater. And of course, what he meant by atmospheric was the same thing that Walt Disney did decades later, which was to take his guests out of Central Florida and transport them to a magical place in time. Tampa Theater is known as a lot of things. We've been called one of the 21 wonders of the world by Life magazine. We've been called one of the 10 most beautiful cinemas in the world by the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences. We're also known as the most haunted building in Tampa. If you Google Tampa Theater ghost, probably the #1 story that you're going to come up with is that of Fink Finley. Fink was a nickname. Foster Finley was our projectionist here at Tampa Theater in life from 1930 to 1965. So for 35 years, 6 days a week, Fink was projecting movies up in the projection booth at Tampa Theater. Fink did fall ill. He collapsed up in the projection booth, and he was taken home by his co-projectionist Bill, where he died about 2 weeks later. Ever since then, every projectionist we've ever had thinks that maybe Fink is still coming to work 6 days a week and trying to help out. It used to happen a lot when we were still projecting 35mm film, and the projectionist would put reel 1 on one projector and reel 2 on the second projector, and that moment of changeover where they had to switch from one projector to the other, they really had to pay attention and be watching the screen and watching for the visual cue that it was time to switch the reel. And it was always at that moment that our projectionists would feel somebody tap them on the back of the shoulder, as if to say, "Pay attention, it's coming." And of course, the one thing you can't do when somebody taps you on the shoulder and you turn around and there's nobody there is to pay attention. So it was really difficult for these projectionists to do their jobs with Fink trying to help all the time. You know, I'm a big Halloween fan. I love scary movies. I love ghost stories, and I go on ghost tours when I go to other cities. So the idea of working in a haunted building is very cool to me. I really like doing the ghost tours in October, but it scares me a little bit too. And I definitely am grateful that nothing truly terrifying has ever happened to me in the building. You know, I've seen other people experience some things. I've heard some things on tape that I really can't explain, but I will say that every time I'm in the building by myself, whether it's late at night or if I'm the first one here in the morning and I'm walking through the auditorium and turning on the lights, either in my head or out loud, I kind of say, you know guys, I'm not sure if you're here or not, but please just don't scare me. And so far they've respected that, so hopefully that will continue.